This is an Ellis Mowers and More small engine repair. Stay connected on Instagram and Facebook at Ellis Mowers and More. Comments or questions? Leave them below or email me, ellis@ellismowers.com. Parts used in today's repair are found using the links in the description below. And as always, like and subscribe for more small engine content. On today's repair video, we are back after a little hiatus with this Husqvarna YTH24V48. Right before Christmas, I got this thing running. Haven't put the drive pulley or the PTO clutch back on it yet. When I came back from being away for Christmas, I found that we've got an oil leak going on from somewhere on the bottom of the engine, whether it's the sump gasket or the, what would it be, the lower crankcase gasket, so to speak. Crankshaft seal, lower crankshaft seal. So in this video, what I've got to do, in addition to fixing or putting a seat on it, changing out the blades and getting putting the left front tire, I got to pull this engine back off and see exactly what's going on with this leak that we've got, and hopefully I can, pretty easily. I've got a couple of crankcase gaskets here, sump gaskets. If I've got to put that on, so be it. But we should be able to get this thing going fairly easily. I just didn't have enough time to do it in order to do a seamless part 1, part 2 video. So I'll go ahead and take care of all of that. What we're going to do, I'm going to get the hood back off of it. I think what I'm going to do first is to take the deck off of it. I'm going to go ahead and change the blades, make sure all the pulleys are good on that. Make sure all the pulleys are spinning freely for the drive system as well. And then once we do all that, I'm going to go ahead and take the engine back off. Y'all saw how I did it in part 1, so I'm just going to go ahead and get it back off. We're going to see where it is leaking from exactly, and then as a result, we'll go in and repair it after that. So let's go ahead and get in it, see what we got. All right, I'm going to show you where this leak is coming from. Coming from down here somewhere, and I don't know, like I said, I don't know if it's coming from the sump gasket or somewhere else. Let me grab a flashlight so I can show you. So we've got a leak coming from down here somewhere. You see it? So that almost looks like a sump gasket issue. Ooh, let me get the light down there, because it's coming from above the lower crankshaft seal. So I'm wondering if the sump gasket is blown somewhere around the oil filter. As long as I don't have a bad oil filter here. I don't think I have just a bad oil filter. It looks clean under the oil filter. So what that's doing is it's leaking down the crankshaft, and you can see the puddle that has come up since we have done that. So that's what we're going to take care of here in a minute. First, what I'm going to do is take off the deck. So the deck has a few mounting points. There's one right there in the middle, a couple on the end down there that we got to take off right around there. And then I've already taken the front mount off because I was working on the engine there. And then on the other side, same deal. I think we've got a cross brace here as well that we've got to take off. So I'm going to take those 5 items off, or those 5 clips off, slide this mower deck out from underneath the machine. We're going to go ahead and change the blades and make sure all the pulleys are good, not only on the deck, but also underneath on the drive system as well. Might even get the mower jack out, jack all this up, get all this changed out. Hopefully, like I said, hopefully it's just a sump gasket. If it is, then we're going to be in good shape, and this shouldn't take too long to take care of. So I've got the deck off. Here's what it looks like underneath. You can see that we have some issues going on with the blades where they really need to be replaced. So we're going to take care of that here right now, actually. We're going to take a 5/8 socket. Hopefully, it's a little cold outside, so, these tools don't work as good in the cold, but hopefully we've got enough to get it off. Yep, okay. And all 3 blades are looking like this, so the edge is starting to come off of them. So I've got some 48-inch blades here. We're gonna slide on. I've already made sure all the pulleys and stuff are free on the other side. I vacuumed off the deck, and now I'm just changing the blades out, and so that's what we're gonna do. From what I could tell, I mean, the mower seemed like it was decently taken care of until the engine blew. Unfortunately, the engine was the kind of the deciding factor on this thing. What I've got to do also, make sure that all these are coming together about where they need to. That one's pretty close. Sometimes these things will be very far off and they'll cause a bad cut. This one right here looks like it's okay though, so that's good. What it'll do is it'll have a hard impact on the spindle, and as a result it'll actually bend the spindle tabs on the deck and cause an uneven cut, whereas you think it may be a bent blade where it's actually not. So let's tighten this one down and see where that one ends up being. Maybe just a tiny bit off, but I think it'll be doable. I'll make sure nothing's broke here. Because unfortunately, what the issue with these is that they're basically impossible to get off without breaking the bolts off of them. So let's see. They're just a little off, maybe an 1/8 inch. But I think it'll be fine, especially with the engine swapped and everything. I mean, this is not going to be like a top dollar mower. It's still probably going to be, I'd love to get $900 for it, but it's probably going to be more like an $850 mower. A lot of times when these go out, they're not treated very well either, unfortunately. So the thing that stinks is I don't have grass to test it on, but I think it'll be okay. Everything's moving freely on the deck, and so we should be fine. We got new blades on it now. They look good. One thing I am going to check underneath the machine, make sure all the drive pulleys and whatnot are free. And as long as they're free, then we should be good. I'll keep the deck off until I get the engine off here. I've got the oil draining. It's a mess, unfortunately, but I got it draining, and we'll get into it here in just a second, getting all of this off. So I went ahead and cleaned it off, but you can see some of the seepage still right here around this crankshaft seal. I have a couple of them here. So what I'm going to do, what this does is requires me to take off the sump, which isn't really a lost cause anyways, because with the age of this engine, the sump gasket is probably ready to be replaced anyways. So not really that bad of a situation here. Now, what I also have to do here is take this governor arm off, because it will get in my way here if I'm not careful. So we'll do this, loosen it up, and hopefully we've got enough wiggle room here to get it off. It's probably never been off in its lifetime, so we'll have to kind of give it a little bit of encouragement to get off, because what you got to do is take, this is part of the sump, and if you don't get it off, then it's going to cause some issues with trying to get it off. So get the sump itself off. So Well, we've got a little bit of, let's do a little wire brush action here. Let's go this way with it. Okay, so we'll do that. See what we can do to get this off. We might have to work on it a little bit later here. Let's split this open a little bit. There we go. Little wiggle. So I've got it loose, which is good. All right. So we'll work on that here in just a second to get it better here. Let's see. I think we can make it work actually. There we go. Alright. Then when we put it back on, what we'll do is we'll turn this all the way to the right so that the governor engages again with the throttle at full throttle. So I'll show you that after we get this off. Sump wise, we need a 5/16. Well, I've already taken the 1/2-inch bolts off here, but for the oil pump, it's recommended. And I need a socket and a ratchet to do this. So you'll break these bolts loose here. Don't use too much force because you don't want to break these things off in the sump. Ooh. Like that. There we go. Man, that thing recoiled. We're all good though. So we'll get this up. Put these aside. And we'll take off this oil pump, set it aside, and then we'll take off the little pieces inside it. I may have to grab a little hook tool or something like that in order to do that. So we'll see if we can get this thing off here. Sometimes it's a little bit of a task. We might take the big star off first here if we can. There we go. We'll pull that up. We'll pull this star piece off. There we go. Then we'll pull the oil pump shaft out. It'll go right back in there with the camshaft after we get it all back together. So that ain't no... This really isn't all that hard. It's just, you know, you have to pull the engine to do it. So, but now we'll get all the bolts out here. They should just pull out. What we'll do is we'll, flip this over and knock the seal out, and then just kind of tap a new seal in. And then we'll replace the sump gasket on it as well. Let me grab a rubber mallet. I'm trying to save this oil filter because I would prefer not to have to change that out, but let's see. All the bolts are off, right? Okay. I mean, if you were on here for 20 years, you'd take a little bit of encouragement to get off too, wouldn't you? Really don't want to hit the oil filter, but I'll just change it. That's always like the best place of leverage. So we'll just throw an oil filter on it. Not really losing any money here or anything. So, all right, we'll slide this out. There we go. And the seal, yeah, this seal is just kind of, oh, we got a bunch of dirt trying to get in there. This seal is just kind of bad. So, see if we can get that out real quick, that dirt. And it just needs a little bit of redoing. The sump gasket, I'm sure, is kind of hard as well. Yeah, I mean, so like I said, we just need to replace both of these while we're here. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of all of that. It's a lot of wire brushing and grinding and stuff like that. So there's a little bit of sludge in the bottom of the engine, not much. So a little bit, but not too bad, especially considering how many hours this engine probably has on it. So I'll get all that wiped out as well. Got to get all that oil taken care of also. Get it out of there. And so what we'll do is I'll get my wire brush. I'll vacuum what I need to vacuum out here, just so we don't get any more junk in here. Now I have a little bit better access. We'll probably go ahead and take the oil dipstick out of it as well. I hope that the oil's not going to spill out. Okay, it's not. So the oil dipstick is out. I'm going to suck the rest of this oil out with my oil sucker tool here. It'll take a second because it's been cold out, but so we'll let it perform some magic here. And I'm just going to clean the bottom of the engine off a little bit, and then we're going to take the sump gasket, replace that, and then the actual crank shaft seal here. I've just got to take like a little screwdriver or something and kind of knock the old one out so that we can put the new one in. May have just done that right there. It was that easy, actually. That's great. So the old one's out. Pretty old and brittle from what I can tell. We'll clean up the side here, clean up the shaft a little bit. And like I said, I think I've got a new gasket here for it, or a new seal for it. So let's do that. We'll try and get all the dirt and stuff away as much as possible here. And make everything nice. I'm going to put this on my bench and take care of this. So I'm going to get that new seal in, just gently tap it in, and get all the rest of this oil out of here. Clean all this up, put a new gasket in whenever I get all of that point. I guess I just wire brush the old gasket off, put the new gasket in, and call it good. Seems to have worked past few times I've done it. And then what we'll do is we'll get everything on, we'll set the governor, and hopefully be done with this thing. Well, I think it's time to put it all back together. You see I've got the new sump gasket on, I've wire brushed everything, cleaned it off as good as I can, And already put the lower oil seal on as well for the crankshaft. As I put this on, I'll show you what I did. So we'll go ahead and flip this over. A lot of times what I'll do with these gaskets is scrape them with a scraper and then run a wire brush on a drill over them. Usually gets them good. I haven't had one leak whenever I do that. So let's get this down. And it should go down fairly easily. Move that governor arm out of the way. There's a couple of pins that will guide the gasket as well as guide the sump down here too. So the lower oil seal, again, what I did, you have to take it off to do it, but I took what is the size of this one? It's a 36 millimeter, and just kind of made sure it was flush, tapped down with a rubber mallet to get it set into place, because this does inset a little bit, so you have to be careful putting it on. And now you have to be careful putting it on to the actual machine. So what we're going to do is very lightly tap it. We're going to make sure everything's got a little bit of coating of oil on it, so hopefully it all slides down well. And so we're just going to see if we can tap this down. Let's see how the seal does. It didn't do like I wanted it to, so before we get any further, let's try, because it's kind of starting to bulge out a little bit. So let's try getting it down into there, into its respective area here. I think, yeah, you don't want it to do that, I don't think. So you want to make sure it gets kind of stuck down in there. So we're going to do that right there. And hopefully that will give us what we need in order to get it to, there we go. That's exactly what you want it to do, to seal down in there. So what we'll do is we'll kind of lightly tap this down. Perfect. Into place. Alright, that's good. Now what we're going to do next, we'll take all these bolts. These bolts need to be torqued to 18 foot-pounds. I would recommend not going any more than that, because I have in the past broken off some of these before by trying to get them just a tad bit tighter, and that's not a good thing whenever they break off like that. So make sure you get them started, make sure you don't cross thread them, and hopefully everything will be good. We'll get the governor sorted once we get it back on the machine here, and all of that good stuff. We're just gonna, like I said, we're gonna get all these bolts started. We're gonna go in like a little cross thread pattern. I'm not using the big 1/2 inch impact on this. I'm gonna use my 3/8. Get it down there, kind of have it torque down just a little bit, and then we'll go back with the torque wrench to make sure, kind of in a similar pattern, to make sure that we're good here. So what I'm going to do, let's see, where is it? Right here. It's a 1/2 inch. We're just going to start everything lightly. See, if you're having a lot of resistance, that's probably because it's cross-threading. You don't want that to be happening. Let's see. That gasket, I mean, it's not a perfect fit, but it seems like it's fitting like it needs to. So we'll keep on going here. This one I think's got a lot of double check. Yeah, it's got some anti-seize, or not anti-seize, but some little remnants of the thread locker. with this being an older mower, let's see. Let's do this. The newer Briggs, they put so much thread locker on their stuff, it's ridiculous. I've had 5-year-old V-twins that I've had to do some repairs on brake bolts because they've got so much thread locker on them that they just that they seize up. So what I'm going to do is grab my impact, or my, we just did my impact. I'm going to do my torque wrench. I'm going to kind of go on a similar pattern, make sure they're all torque tight to 18 foot-pounds. And I'll do that off camera, but what I do want to show y'all on camera is this, putting your oil pump back in. And it'll slide down into a slot like you just saw right there. And then what you'll do is you can put your the inner star in, so to speak. The 4-point. It's not a star if it's 4 points, but then you put the outer portion of this. I'll wipe it down real quick before we put the O-ring and stuff back on. Like I said, it was where it was leaking at was here at the seal, and it may, I don't see where it was leaking at the sump gasket, but still it's a good practice. Well, you have to replace it because you have to replace the gasket when you replace the seal. Usually if you can keep these Briggs from leaking, these things right here will run for a long time, but their main crux, if you want to call it that, is that if they start leaking, people won't check the oil. They'll get low on oil and then blow up. So that's generally what the culprit is on these things. Just have to kind of be ready for that whenever you want to, or you know, whenever these things age a little bit. Overall, the V-twins are fine for what they are. And so that's how you put all that back on. I'm gonna just kind of snug them up with the socket and with the ratchet, wherever that is, and I'll finish up torquing this down. I'll go ahead and put it back on the engine, or back on the mower. My words are, I have a hard time making words sometimes. But I'll get it all back on the mower. We'll flip it over, put some oil in it, get it to run, and or get it running again. And hopefully we won't have any leaks after this. We can I'm going to go ahead and put everything back on because I do know that the leak was coming from either the sump or most likely that lower crankcase seal there. If I've done it right, it shouldn't leak anymore, and this mower essentially should be done after I put everything back together. All right, we got it all back on. Mounting bolts. I tightened this up a little bit. Sump gasket's on. The new oil seal. So between all of that, we should not have any leaks anymore, hopefully. That is the hope here. All this oil that you see right here is where I replaced the oil filter. So that's what that is. The choke cable we put back on. Just have the choke cable down, pushed all the way over here, and then tighten that down. And the throttle cable, remember the governor is down here. Before you tighten the governor arm back up, you have to twist it to the right at full throttle. So put your throttle, situate your throttle first, and then twist this to the right at full throttle, not while it's running obviously, and then tighten that 7/16 inch nut. That should have sorted all of our issues, hopefully, with this engine. And what I'm going to do now is actually crank it up. So let's see, I got everything hooked up like it's supposed to, except for the 6-pin plug, which is pretty important. So I will hook that up now. I still got to free up the middle pulley on the drive system. So I don't have the PTO clutch in it yet. I don't have the drive pulley on it yet. But we're going to see if we can get this thing to crank over. Well, it should crank over because the battery should be good. Break us down. Let's do it. Again, it doesn't have any fuel, or it's either flooded, one of the two. So. Okay. Take it for sure. Obviously, we're going to monitor to make sure there's no leaking or anything going on. There was a lot of air movement on the other side. It almost looked like there was a big leak, but it was just blowing that oil that was already, that had came out of the oil filter essentially. So it's all good. It's lunchtime. I'm going to hit me some lunch and come back. We're going to put the deck back on it. I got to get that drive pulley freed, find a deck for it, or put the deck back on it, find a seat for it, which I do have out here, and we should be in business. Alright guys, I got the hood and everything back on it. Again, I still got to change out the tire left front. Got to put ATF in the rears, and I think this right front's actually good. Top off the right front. Everything's back on. Hopefully this thing runs, drives, and cuts now. Nothing special, nothing unusual, putting everything back together. Again, you have your deck mounts, which I showed you that you at the beginning of the video. And I put a seat on it. This seat is actually got some padding on it, so it's in much better condition. Just one small rip right there on the side. Pretty par for the course when it comes to one of these Husqvarna mowers. And let's see, I've greased the front end. I still need to clean the headlight lenses. I still need to do the ATF treatment and just give this thing a pretty good cleaning. as well as the tires, the rear tires, that left front, and I need to level the deck and clean the headlight lenses. I'll take care of all that. I just want to make sure that it does the things first. So let's crank it up. I'll open the garage. We'll ride it outside. As long as everything works like it's supposed to. Get it out here and see if it'll the blades will work. Carb's pretty decent too. Maybe just a little stumble, but not enough to really go into it anymore. I'm going to clean up my garage a little bit, sweep all this stuff off. We're going to pull this back inside, and we are going to see what we can do with getting the tires right and just getting everything situated nice and clean. Deck level. The deck level points are on the rear, on each side, and then on the front. We're just going to fine tune everything, get it all straight, get ready for some pictures. I think it's going to stop raining here pretty shortly, and hopefully be done with this thing pretty soon. Well, there we are, cleaned up, finished up, ready for sale, I believe. Ready to roll. I did do the headlight lens cleaning, which makes these things look great, and then I put a little bit of transmission fluid on the hood and on the plastics, makes it look a lot better, and even a little bit on the outside of the tires just to kind of get rid of that dirt stuff. All four of these tires actually have tubes in them. I found the left front tire off of another Husqvarna I had in the yard here that had a tube in it and was holding air well, so I just did a swap on that, and we should be good. So just a little bit of light damage on the hood right there, and that little tear in the seat. But apart from that, it runs good, and you know, 305 hours on it on the body. The engine probably has more, but it's got a fresh lower seal, and sump gasket, so can't really complain about that. I'll show you that it runs, and we'll drive it for a second here just to show you everything's good on it still. And the headlight. Work on it. I wish I could get rid of that little rattle. That's one of the things that's hard to get rid of on these. But it runs good. I'll take it down the driveway a little bit. So there we go. I think she's ready to go. Obviously it's January, I don't know, it's the first week in January. I don't have anything to cut. People probably think I'm crazy riding on a mower here and it's 35 degrees outside and we had some sleet yesterday. But I mean, this is where you make the money at though, is in the off season. You just get these things out of the backyard, fix them, crank them out, get them ready for spring, list them. I go ahead and list them. That way, if somebody, on the off chance somebody, has the money now and wants to go ahead and pay for it and have it ready for spring, it's good to go. This thing, I know somebody commented about who would pay $900 for one of these with a swapped engine that doesn't have the correct engine shroud on them. A lot of times people don't really care all that much. If this was like a perfect example, with 300 hours, it may be $50 to $100 more with the original engine on it. I am probably, because it cleaned up so nicely, I'm probably going to list it. Usually the going rate for these is about anywhere between $850 and $950. So I'll list it for $950. I'll let it go for either $900 or $850. Probably won't say no if somebody brings me $800. It just runs good. It's ready to go. These Husqvarna mowers, as long as you take care of them, especially the front ends on these with the drag links and don't go really fast and flying over stuff, then they'll usually last a good little while. That's really the weak points on these. And again, as the V-twins, they're just fine as long as you keep oil in them. A lot of times the oil leaks that could be preventable occur on them, like loose oil filters and loose oil drain caps, oil drain plugs. So, but we got it all done, ready to go. Really happy with how it turned out. Again, we had to put the engine on it, swap the engine, put some blades on it. The belts were good on it. Had to free up a couple of pulleys, and the engine that I swapped into it, we had to put an oil seal and a sump gasket on. Can't really complain about that really, especially since I got this machine in a lot that I've already sold machines that I've already paid for the lot. So really, anything I make on this is going to be profit at this point, aside from the battery and the oil and the filter, the sump gasket, and the oil seal, which collectively probably total less than $50. So that's good. And we got the first rider ready of 2025. Took me a little bit longer than expected, but coming off of sinus issues as well, that kind of knocked me down a little bit between, and I still sound a little rough, but between Christmas and the week of New Year's, essentially. So thanks again for the support. I appreciate y'all watching. I hope that y'all enjoyed this little two-part series on this Husqvarna YTH. It'll find a home eventually, whether it's here shortly or sometime in the spring. And it'll probably sell, like I said, for about $850 or so. I'll list it for $950. Be happy if I get $850 for sure. Thanks again for watching, y'all. Hopefully y'all enjoyed it, and I'll catch y'all on the next small engine repair.